Did you know that Yukon, Oklahoma is ranked in the top 5 suburbs in America? That's right, and I'm going to break it all down today. And make sure you stick around because we're going to be talking about all of the hidden gems that you won't find on Google. Are you thinking about moving to Oklahoma City, specifically Yukon, and don't really know where to start? Well, today I'm going to be taking you on a virtual tour of Yukon, Oklahoma, one of the most popular suburbs of Oklahoma City and of America. So stick around and let's dive into why so many families are making Yukon, Oklahoma their new home. Okay, so let's get right into it. We're going to cover a number of topics today. I want to go through a little bit about the location of Yukon, what the commute looks like. We're going to talk a little bit about the neighborhoods, housing, schools, and then we're going to get into the fun stuff, the hidden gems, maybe the local spots that you need to know about. So let's dive right into location and talk a little bit about where Yukon sits and what those commute times look like. So let's get into our map here. I've pulled up a Google map so you can kind of get an overview of the Oklahoma City metro and where Yukon sits. So I'm going to get my little handy drawing tool here. This is our Oklahoma City metro. And as you can see, Yukon is right over here on the west side. Yukon is it's a large suburb and it covers a lot of square miles, and I would say it's rather long. If we zoom in just a little bit here, and Yukon stretches all the way up here and kind of goes all the way down. Okay, so it's kind of long and skinny, and it sits on the west side of the metro. Now, what a lot of people like about Yukon is its location and where it sits in the metro when looking at highways, okay? So when we look at Oklahoma City as a whole, we have, first of all, we have Interstate 40 that runs all the way through the middle part of Oklahoma City. Right here is our downtown, and it goes all the way straight through Yukon. This is a huge interstate that honestly it runs east coast to west coast, and it runs smack dab through Oklahoma City. Now, if we're going to talk about traffic is relatively really good in Oklahoma City in general. There was just a study recently that came out that showed that we have some of the smallest commute times in our city compared to other cities of our size, which is great. Now, if we're looking at where is traffic going to be the heaviest, like say during a rush hour, it is going to be here on I-40. Anybody that's commuting downtown is oftentimes using that, and right around in here, this is where traffic can back up if you're like working that traditional 8 to 5, that type of job here. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, another major highway that goes through Yukon that people absolutely love is our Kilpatrick Turnpike. Now, when I say turnpike, you probably think money. Yes, it does cost money to drive on our turnpike, but a lot of people love the convenience and love the ease of traffic. The turnpike starts right over here up in Edmond, goes all the way around the north side of the city, and then goes all the way down the west side of the city and runs right through Yukon. Now, I would say even during rush hour periods, there are very, very few times that traffic is very rarely ever is it stopped. And honestly, if it's slowed, it's still not that slowed. Traffic just really isn't all that bad on the turnpike, which is great. Now, if we're thinking commute times, that sort of thing, a lot of people will take that turnpike down to the airport. Our airport sits right here on the south side of the city. So you can literally hop on this turnpike, especially if you live up here in North Yukon, hop on the turnpike, ride it all the way down to the airport, which is great. Now, if we're looking for like how long does it take you to get to the airport, that really depends on where about in Yukon you live. Like I said, Yukon is long and skinny here. So us in the north, you North Yukoners right here, if we hop on this turnpike and go all the way down to the airport, I'm going to say, especially if it's not like a busy time of day, if you're catching that flight, that early morning flight, it might take you 15, 20 minutes. Really not all that bad. Now, if you're a South Yukon, or maybe you're sitting like right down in here, it's going to be even less, 10 to 15 minutes. Like Really, really not that long at all. I'm going to say like your longest commute time would be hypothetically if you work a very traditional job with like traditional hours, you're 8 to 5, and let's say you're traveling to downtown or somewhere else in the city. If you have to take I-40, that's going to be your cleanest route to get there. But keep in mind, there will be some traffic if you're doing those normal traditional times right along here. Traffic can get pretty heavy there. It will get slowed down. Luckily, it's really just kind of this stretch right here, and then it's over after that. So just kind of bear with that. Okay, since we're talking about location and commute with Yukon, let's talk a little bit about housing too and kind of where you would want to live when it comes to Yukon. I'm going to zoom just slightly back out again. Actually, I'm going to stay in where I am. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so when we think of Yukon, we're stretching all the way up here north, going all the way south here. When we think of housing and neighborhoods, that sort of thing, Yukon has a little bit of everything. Now, if you are looking for a new construction home, if new construction is your jam, Yukon has it. Yukon actually between 2020 and 2023 grew over 11%, which is higher than the average for suburbs here and nationally too. So to accommodate all that new growth, there was a lot of new construction, and it continues to this day. So if new construction is what you're looking for, you're going to have plenty of options. Now, let's say new construction is not your bag and you'd rather have an existing home. We have a lot of that too, especially if we are to look, say, right around in this area, in this red area that I'm circling. There's a lot of existing homes there, a lot of homes built in the 90s, early 2000s, maybe up to like 2015, that sort of time. You can definitely find those. If you're wanting a home even older, they do exist too, especially right up around here where that Route 66 is. Now, when it comes to like our new construction, there's quite a few new construction areas right here, which is great with Lake Overholser. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There is also a lot of new construction right here up on the tip of the north side there. And then right here where we have Surrey Hills in this area, that's where you're going to see maybe, there are some new construction neighborhoods, but there's also a large area that is true Surrey Hills where you'll find homes built in the 70s, 80s, 90s. So a little bit of everything. Yukon also has a great amount of affordability. You can find starter homes that are in the 200s. You can find slightly bigger homes, maybe more family friendly with growing families that are anywhere from 3 to 500,000. And there even is a luxury market as well where you can find homes $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 too. They do exist and I can find them for sure. Okay, let's talk a little bit about schools and education. So, of course, we have like our private schools as well. Those are sprinkled all throughout the Oklahoma City metro. But the main public school system that serves Yukon is Yukon Public Schools. It is a rather large school system. It's ranked pretty well. I don't want to get too far into that because there are some fair housing laws there that I don't want to violate. But when we look at rankings, Yukon is pretty good in the state, which is excellent for families that are looking for good schools. Now, I pulled up this map here that Yukon provides. If you need access to this, just let me know. This is actually a great one where you can plug in like an address and see what elementary schools and middle schools it feeds into. But this shows kind of location of all of our elementary, intermediate schools and high schools. So as you can see, there are several elementary schools. I want to say there are like 7 or 8 elementary schools in Yukon Public. And there's a lot that are clustered down here. As you can see in the south side of Yukon, there's this huge cluster of elementary, intermediate, which is like middle schools, and then the high school as well. Now, don't worry if you are a North Yukoner. We have an elementary and an intermediate school up there too. Surrey Hills Elementary kind of services all of them up there. And then your kids would go to Redstone Intermediate after that. And then as they get older, they would come down here for the high school. But honestly, it's really not that far. Buses can make it easily, and it's an easy drive if you were to drop your kids off at school, or if when they're older, they're driving themselves. So really not too far at all. So as you can see, there's a lot of elementary schools. I feel like elementary schools are kind of where you get that small town feel, and you really grow with your classmates, that sort of thing, which a lot of parents enjoy. Now, as we get into middle school and high school, that's where class sizes do become a little larger. Yukon is a larger school district, but still a really great one. Yukon does sit really close to Mustang, which Mustang is also another large school district. They kind of have this rivalry going too when it comes to sports, which is a lot of fun. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of the fun stuff, like the amenities. What does Yukon have to offer? And maybe what are some areas and places that Google isn't telling me about, like the local gems, right? Yukon is very unique. What draws people to Yukon so much is its proximity to the city. It's easy to get, into Oklahoma City. It's easy to get to all of the Walmarts, Targets, Costco's, that sort of thing. But it still has a lot of areas where there's a lot of historic charm, and people love that. For instance, I'm going to zoom into this map here. One thing that Yukon has is historic Route 66. Like you've heard it before, you've heard the song. I would sing it, but I'm a realtor, I'm not a singer. But we have historic Route 66 that runs right through Yukon, and the street is, if you see Main Street, you're on historic 66. And Main Street is a little bit like going back in time. There's a lot of historical landmarks like Yukon's flour mill and the grain elevators. These are no longer in operation, but they are great photo ops, and they are, they're a hint to the historic roots, the agricultural roots that Yukon was founded on, and really cool to see. You can also go down Main Street and you can find a ton of boutique shops, lots of shopping, lots of dining. It's a little bit like stepping back in time, which is lovely. And there's even a lot of like quirky shops where you can find local memorabilia and things like that. So that's a must if you come into Yukon and you're looking around. Absolutely check out historic Main Street on Route 66. And speaking of historic Route 66, let's talk a little bit about the restaurant climate in Yukon as well. If you have followed Oklahoma City in the last few years, Oklahoma City has actually become a huge food culture. I would call it the foodie nation. I am a huge foodie and love trying new restaurants, trying new foods. And while Oklahoma City is just rising to the top in that and growing so much, I will say a lot of those wonderful restaurants are more in Oklahoma City and not quite in Yukon. Now, that doesn't say that there's no great hidden gems, hidden restaurants in Yukon. There are some local spots that the locals love. I'm gonna plug one of them into the maps here just so you can kind of see. So this is where Route 66 sits in the metro. Right over here we have Lake Overholser, and this is kind of our historic Route 66, our main street. One of the restaurants that people love is called The Local. That's Lokal. That's a really good one. It serves like American food, but very, very good. There's also a restaurant called Green Chili Kitchen, which is right really close to this, right along Route 66 as well. And the locals really love that. There's another one that's just a little bit far over here, closer to Lake Overholser, called Emma L's. I've actually never been to this one, but it's on my list of ones to try. It's an Italian restaurant, and I've had multiple people tell me that they really loved that one as well. So just some things to keep in mind there if you have a foodie mindset like I do. Something else that Yukon has that the locals love and that really contributes to the community feel is the amount of parks that Yukon has. They have 12, I'm going to read this off. I wrote it down here for you all. They have 12 public parks, 3 rec centers, and 2 community pools. So lots of community public parks, which families tend to love. Just south of Route 66, they have one of their bigger ones, which is called Chisholm Trail Park right here. As you can see, now it's not too far from the highway right here, Highway 40, Interstate 40, I guess you call it, and comes right up here off Highway 4 too. So it's very, very easy to get to. Chisholm Trail Park has tons of green space, trees, ponds, picnic areas, playgrounds, walking trails. So it has just about everything. And one of my favorite parts of it is they have Christmas in the park every year. Christmas in the park is where they deck out the entire park with Christmas lights. And you can drive through it, you can walk through it. They have an ice skating rink, and then kind of like concessions where there's like popcorn, hot cocoa, all of that sort of thing. And it's completely free. So we usually load up our kids in the car. We used to always drive through it when they were younger. Now that they're a little older, they want to walk. Another hidden gem that Yukon has that oftentimes you don't find from just a simple Google search is their Clydesdale barn. I'm gonna pull it up again here on the map. This was really a favorite of my family's, especially during the COVID years. I had kids that were smaller at the time, and this was a place where there wasn't a ton of people, and it was just like such a cool place to have in the city. The Clydesdale barn sits up on the north side of the Yukon. Let's zoom out a little bit here. So it's not down here where all the Route 66 action is. It's kind of a little bit farther north. Now we have our very, very far north Yukon up here in Surrey Hills, and this sits kind of in the middle. Now what I will say is it is very, very close to the city, but you get close to this Clydesdale barn and it's rural. Like the last mile you drive to get there, you're passing fields and there is nothing out there. You will not feel like you're that close to the city that you are. Now this is a very cool Clydesdale barn. I can probably even pull this up. Yeah, check that out. It even shows kind of a, hey Pony, it shows the inside of the barns there. But the Clydesdale barn there's an event center there, so you can hold events. Like I've been there for a birthday party before. But it's also just like open to the public. So I think you just go on their website and you like book an appointment, but it's really just like a self-guided tour that you can do. And you don't even check in. You just book. I just always have booked the appointment and then just showed up, and we walk around and we look at all of these Clydesdale horses, which if you haven't seen one in person, they're very massive and very impressive. But it's kind of just a fun family activity to go out there, see all these horses, and I guess get a little nature and that sort of thing. But very, very cool, and kind of a hidden gem that a lot of people don't know about unless you live there. Keep in mind too, there are a ton of festivals in the Oklahoma City area, including Yukon. I once read that we had turned the coin, like we're the festival capital in Oklahoma, or excuse me, in America, that Oklahoma City is, which is really cool. And Yukon is no different. Yukon has a huge Czech population, and there's a lot of Czech roots in Yukon, so they have a huge Czech festival every year. There's also a festival in the summer called Festival of the Child, I believe, and it's just all family friendly, and it's free and open to everyone. So you name it, whatever time of year, there's probably a festival or an event happening that would be great for you and your family potentially. One thing I want to point out too is that Yukon, like the rest of Oklahoma City, is a little bit tricky when it comes to city boundaries, school districts, all that sort of thing. If we go back to our map here, like I said, Yukon stretches all the way down here. Actually, it kind of goes a little bit farther over here. Now, this is not just true for Yukon, it's true for a lot of other suburbs in Oklahoma City. When people say, they come to me and say, I want to live in Yukon, what I ask them is, do you want to live in Yukon? Do you want the community? Are you looking for Yukon schools? Like, what is it that drives you? The reason I say that is because there are a lot of areas in Yukon and some other suburbs where maybe it has a different address but feeds into Yukon schools, right? So there's people out there that say, I live in Edmond, I go to Deer Creek schools, but I have Oklahoma City utilities. That happens a lot, and it's the same for Yukon. For instance, this little area right up here at the top, there are some people that have, say, a Piedmont address that live right up here, but they're still in Yukon schools. So when people say, I want to live in Yukon, I say, well, are you looking for the schools or are you looking for Yukon? It's still Yukon and it's still Yukon schools, but you might have a Piedmont address. So I'm very careful about that, so that way we don't exclude any homes that you might be looking for. And same thing when you get kind of down here to the south too. There are small little areas where maybe it's a Yukon address but Mustang schools. So we want to be a little bit mindful of those little quirks. So we've talked a lot about Yukon today, and I hope you've gotten a really good feel about what Yukon has to offer and why so many people are wanting to move there. I think from what I've seen of Yukon is that people really love it because they are so close to the amenities of the city and have very easy access to that with lower commute times. But there's a lot of areas of Yukon where you get that really good historic charm and great neighborhoods, a strong sense of community that people really, really appreciate. But tell me, are there any hidden gems that you've recently learned about, ones that you want to know more about? Drop down in the comments and let me know what you found or find really exciting. I'm Katie Kuriakos, your local real estate expert here in the Oklahoma City area, and I get calls, texts, and emails every single day from people just like you wanting to make that move to the Oklahoma City area. So if that sounds like you, go down to the description where you'll find all of my contact information for you to contact me. Whether you're moving tomorrow or months from now, maybe you're moving across the country or even across the world, I'm here to make your move to Oklahoma City as easy as possible.